Hello everyone, and welcome to another engaging episode of Exposing the Narcissist. Today we are delving into a topic that provides insight into the inner workings of the narcissist's mind, the things they fear and worry about on a regular basis, and the reasons behind these anxieties. Understanding these fears not only sheds light on their behavior, but also offers clarity on how their world operates under the heavy influence of insecurity and paranoia. To truly grasp the essence of a narcissist's fears, we must first understand what drives them. At the core of their being, narcissists are ruled by fear. Fear of exposure, fear of rejection, fear of losing control. These are just a few of the factors that govern their thoughts and actions. Their fragile ego acts as a house of cards, susceptible to even the slightest gust of perceived criticism or failure. This profound vulnerability leads them to a state of constant vigilance, making them prone to paranoia and anxiety. Consequently, they develop a heightened sense of defensiveness, always on edge and ready to counter any potential threat to their carefully constructed self-image. It's important to note that many of the worries consuming a narcissist's mind are unfounded. Yet their paranoia convinces them otherwise, creating a cycle of fear and overreaction. This tendency to magnify and internalize imagined threats as reality further isolates them, both mentally and emotionally. Today, I will highlight 8 specific fears that are particularly prominent in covert narcissists. While these fears are most evident in covert individuals, many of them can also be observed in other types of narcissists. Before we dive into these fears, let's address a universal truth: worrying is an inherent part of the human experience. Everyone has concerns and fears that occupy their mind from time to time. It's a natural reaction to uncertainty or potential loss. However, for narcissists, their worries are deeply tied to their pathological need for validation and the relentless pursuit of safeguarding their ego. Unlike the occasional worries of a typical person, the narcissist's fears stem from an exaggerated sense of self-importance coupled with an overwhelming need to control how they are perceived by others. This unique blend of fear and fragility creates a pervasive sense of unease that affects not only their behavior but also their interactions with those around them. One of the key elements driving their fears is the covert narcissist's inclination to operate behind the scenes. Unlike overt narcissists who thrive on outward displays of power and attention, covert narcissists adopt a more subtle, passive-aggressive approach. This makes their fears less visible but no less intense. Their primary concern is protecting the facade they present to the world, a carefully curated image of competence, kindness, or even victimhood. Any perceived threat to this image sends them into a spiral of anxiety, as they feel their true, insecure selves might be exposed. The need to maintain this image often dictates their behavior, causing them to manipulate, withdraw, or lash out in response to what they perceive as threats. Another aspect worth considering is how these fears shape their relationships. Covert narcissists' paranoia often leads them to misinterpret the intentions of those around them. They might view constructive criticism as an attack or interpret someone else's success as a personal affront. These distorted perceptions not only fuel their fears but also drive wedges between them and others. By understanding the underlying fears that govern their actions, we can better recognize the patterns in their behavior and, in turn, protect ourselves from being drawn into their cycles of paranoia and defensiveness. In conclusion, exploring the fears of the covert narcissist allows us to better understand the motivations behind their actions. Their constant state of worry is a reflection of their fragile ego and unrelenting need for validation. While some of these fears may resonate with all narcissists, covert narcissists experience them in particularly unique and subtle ways, making their fears both harder to detect and more insidious. As we uncover these layers of fear and insecurity, we gain valuable insight into their world, a world driven by the ceaseless need to protect an identity that is both inflated and precariously fragile. Stay tuned as we delve into the 8 specific fears that dominate their minds and explore how these fears shape their behavior and interactions. By shedding light on these truths, we empower ourselves to navigate relationships with narcissists more effectively and with greater awareness. One of the most pervasive and haunting concerns for a covert narcissist is the fear of abandonment. This fear lies at the very core of their psyche, shaping their interactions and relationships. For narcissists, the idea of being left behind is not just a passing worry, it is a profound anxiety that governs much of their behavior. They operate under the assumption that most relationships are fragile and that it's only a matter of time before people may choose to leave. This is why control becomes a central theme in their lives. They seek to gain not just emotional and mental control over others, but often aim to establish financial dependency. To the narcissist, trapping someone, ensuring they cannot easily walk away, feels like the only way to secure a relationship. This need for control is deeply tied to their desire for power. By keeping people tethered, the narcissist creates a dynamic where they alone hold the authority to decide when or if the relationship ends. In their ideal world, abandonment is never a possibility unless they choose it. This illusion of control offers them a fleeting sense of security, shielding them from the vulnerability they fear most. However, the very methods they use to maintain these bonds often create the instability they dread, perpetuating a vicious cycle. Everyday triggers of the narcissist's fear. The covert narcissist's fear of abandonment is not just theoretical, it's palpable and easily provoked by even the smallest disruptions in routine. Imagine not responding to a text message quickly enough, being momentarily unreachable, or arriving late to a scheduled meeting. For most people, these are minor inconveniences, but to the narcissist, they can feel like monumental threats. Such seemingly trivial actions can stir a whirlwind of anxiety, leaving the narcissist consumed by thoughts of betrayal or desertion. Their reaction may seem exaggerated or even irrational, but it stems from how their mind operates. Their heightened sensitivity to perceived rejection makes them hypervigilant, scanning for signs that someone might be pulling away. It's as if they are constantly living on the edge, bracing for abandonment that may not even be imminent. This creates a tense and often exhausting dynamic for those around them, as they may feel pressured to constantly reassure or placate the narcissist. The paradox of control and vulnerability. While the narcissist strives to maintain control, this very effort exposes their vulnerability. Their actions reveal the fragile foundation on which their confidence is built. The covert narcissist might appear calm and composed on the surface, but underneath lies a deep-seated insecurity that drives their need for dominance. They craft intricate strategies to keep people close, yet these tactics often undermine genuine connection and trust. What they fear most, being abandoned, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as their controlling behavior pushes others away. Understanding this paradox offers a glimpse into the narcissist's internal conflict. They long for stability and connection, but fear the vulnerability required to achieve it. Instead of fostering authentic bonds, they settle for power plays, prioritizing control over intimacy. This approach may provide temporary relief from their fears, but it often leads to isolation in the long run. A closer look at narcissists and abandonment. The fear of abandonment is a defining feature of the narcissist's psyche, and its influence cannot be overstated. From their need to dominate relationships to their hypersensitivity to perceived slights, this fear colors every aspect of their interactions. While their behavior can be difficult to navigate, understanding the roots of their fear offers valuable insight. It sheds light on why they act the way they do and how deeply this fear is embedded in their identity. If you're interested in delving deeper into the psychology of narcissists and their fear of abandonment, there's much more to explore. These complexities reveal the intricate and often painful dynamics of their minds, offering a fuller picture of the struggles they face and the impact they have on those around them. The fragile armor of a covert narcissist, their deepest fear of losing respect. Respect, for the covert narcissist, is not just a desire, it is an insatiable demand, the cornerstone of their carefully curated facade. Their existence revolves around a meticulously crafted image, a projection of superiority and perfection that they expect others to admire without question. But beneath this polished veneer lies a profound vulnerability, the fear of losing respect. This fear consumes them, driving a relentless need to monitor every interaction. It is not enough for others to treat them kindly or civilly. Respect must be palpable, unwavering, and absolute. Anything less feels like a personal attack, threatening the very foundation of their identity. After all, this identity, this false persona, is the product of immense effort, a shield against the insecurity they dare not confront. To lose respect is to risk exposure, to let the cracks in their facade show, and this possibility is intolerable. Their hyper-awareness of social dynamics amplifies their anxiety. Every interaction becomes a battleground where they strive to maintain control. They are acutely attuned to the subtleties of human communication, scrutinizing not just what is said, but how it is expressed. A fleeting hesitation in tone, a slight shift in body language, or a look that lingers a moment too long, all of these are perceived as potential threats. In the mind of a covert narcissist, even the smallest deviation can signal disrespect, triggering a chain reaction of defensiveness and withdrawal. When they sense this perceived disrespect, their response is swift and calculated. Some may react with exaggerated defensiveness, launching into subtle yet cutting remarks to reassert dominance. Others might retreat into silence, a strategic move designed to regain control by leaving the other person guessing. This silence is not just avoidance, it is a weapon, a way to manipulate and restore their sense of power in the relationship. Their reactions are never about resolving conflict or understanding others, they are about self-preservation, about maintaining the illusion of respect and admiration they so desperately need. Yet, this relentless pursuit of respect is not rooted in confidence or self-assurance. On the contrary, it stems from an unspoken truth: the covert narcissist is deeply insecure. The respect they crave is not a reflection of their worth, but a fragile mask for the self-doubt they cannot escape. Ironically, this makes them prisoners of the very validation they seek, forever chasing an unattainable ideal of acceptance. For those who interact with a covert narcissist, this dynamic can be exhausting. The constant need to walk on eggshells, to monitor one's tone, words, and expressions, creates a one-sided relationship where the narcissist's needs always take precedence. Over time, this imbalance erodes trust and intimacy, leaving the other party drained and disillusioned. Understanding this fear of losing respect provides a glimpse into the covert narcissist's psyche. While their behavior may seem calculated and manipulative, it is ultimately rooted in fear, a fear so pervasive that it shapes their every thought and action. To truly see them is to understand that beneath their facade lies a person wrestling with profound insecurity, a person whose need for respect masks a deeper longing for self-worth. Covert narcissists are often consumed by a deep-seated fear of being exposed for their flaws and weaknesses. This pervasive worry influences nearly every aspect of their behavior, particularly how they interact with others. To shield themselves from potential criticism, they often seek collaboration in their endeavors. On the surface, this might appear as teamwork or partnership, but their underlying motive is self-preservation. By involving others, they ensure there is someone to take the fall if things go awry, deftly dodging accountability while maintaining their carefully curated image. Interestingly, despite their aversion to working alone, covert narcissists are quick to claim sole credit when a project succeeds. This duality, the reluctance to shoulder responsibility coupled with the eagerness to bask in glory, exposes their deeply fragile ego. Any confrontation with their shortcomings, no matter how constructive, feels like an attack on their identity. This hypersensitivity to criticism often leaves them resistant to feedback, even when it could benefit their personal or professional growth. Their fear of exposure extends beyond private interactions and deeply colors their public persona. In social or professional settings, covert narcissists strive to meet, and often exceed the expectations of others. They are acutely aware that being faulted publicly could shatter the idealized image they've worked so hard to construct. To avoid this, they meticulously curate their words and actions, presenting themselves in a way that feels almost flawless. Every gesture, every phrase is calculated to garner approval and avoid complaint. This obsessive need for validation reveals their underlying insecurity. They don't simply want their words and actions to be accepted, they crave unchallenged admiration. This relentless pursuit of perfection in the public eye is not born out of genuine care or effort, but rather out of a desperate desire to prevent anyone from questioning their worth. For covert narcissists, being critiqued isn't just inconvenient, it feels like a profound threat to their very sense of self. In summary, the covert narcissist's world is a delicate balancing act of avoiding blame, claiming success, and shielding their vulnerabilities from the prying eyes of others. Beneath their polished facade lies a constant struggle to protect an ego that is far more fragile than it appears. It is this fear of exposure that drives them to carefully orchestrate every interaction, ensuring that they remain unassailable in the eyes of those around them. Yet, this relentless need for control and validation often leaves them trapped in a cycle of anxiety, unable to face the very flaws they work so hard to conceal. The endless fear of mediocrity and narcissists' daily struggle. For narcissists, one of the most persistent and haunting fears they face every day is the possibility of being perceived as ordinary. To them, being labeled as average is not merely a label, it is a terrifying indictment, a direct challenge to their carefully constructed identity. The thought of being seen as equal to others, indistinguishable in a crowd, shakes the very core of their self-worth. For narcissists, equality is not a virtue, it is a threat. They crave to be seen not just as your peer, but as your superior, someone better, more accomplished, and more deserving of admiration. This constant need to elevate themselves above others drives much of their behavior. They invest significant time, energy, and resources in crafting an image that speaks of excellence, success, and uniqueness. Whether it's through flaunting achievements, showcasing material possessions, or dominating conversations with tales of their exploits, the effort is deliberate and unrelenting. For them, the goal is twofold. Not only do they need something to boast about, but they also need to ensure that what they possess or accomplish surpasses what their peers have achieved. At its core, this is not simply about vanity or pride. It is about staying relevant, commanding attention, and remaining firmly in the spotlight. Narcissists are driven by an insatiable hunger to feel important, to be noticed, and to be celebrated. However, their relentless pursuit of validation often creates a paradox. No matter how much they achieve, it is never enough. Their internal benchmark for success is perpetually out of reach, shifting further away with each accomplishment. This leaves them trapped in a cycle of striving and dissatisfaction, a cycle fueled by the fear of irrelevance. This fear does not merely linger in the background, it dominates their mental landscape. It whispers to them that their worth is tied to their superiority, that their value exists only in being exceptional. And so, the narcissist remains locked in a constant battle, fighting against the very notion of being ordinary, even as the weight of their insecurity grows heavier. Ultimately, the life of a narcissist is one of perpetual performance. They live in a state of hyper-awareness, always measuring themselves against others and striving to outdo them. But beneath the bravado and outward displays of confidence lies a fragile sense of self, forever haunted by the specter of mediocrity. It is a relentless, exhausting existence, one where the fear of being just like everyone else looms larger than any accolade they could ever achieve. One of the most persistent fears that narcissists grapple with daily is the possibility of being overshadowed. The mere thought of someone else stepping into the spotlight, be it a colleague at work, a close friend, a romantic partner, or even their own child, can send waves of unease rippling through their minds. For a narcissist, life often feels like an unspoken competition where the stakes are as high as their fragile sense of self-worth. In their world, Attention isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. To them, being the center of attention is not merely a preference but a cornerstone of their identity. It is their oxygen, their fuel. Without it, they feel adrift, their carefully constructed persona threatened by the possibility of fading into the background. But what truly sets a narcissist apart is the silent battle they wage against everyone around them. They see potential rivals everywhere, even in the most unlikely of places. A colleague's success can feel like a personal affront, a friend's charm might trigger hidden insecurities, and the achievements of their own child could spark a bitter sense of envy masked behind a proud facade. This internal competition drives them to meticulously orchestrate their interactions and ensure that they remain at the center of every narrative. In their relentless pursuit of attention, narcissists are willing to employ a variety of tactics, some subtle, others overt. They might charm their way into the spotlight with ease, using charisma as their weapon of choice. Or, when charm falls short, they may resort to undermining those around them, casting doubt on the abilities or accomplishments of others to ensure their own star shines brighter. Yet, behind this facade of confidence and control lies a deep vulnerability. Their fear of being outshined stems from a fragile self-image, one that is constantly in need of external validation to remain intact. For the narcissist, the center of attention isn't just a place of comfort, it's a shield against the inner insecurities they strive so hard to conceal. This relentless need for attention, coupled with the fear of losing it, shapes much of how they navigate their world. It is both their driving force and their Achilles heel, a paradox that defines the very essence of their personality. Narcissists, the hidden fears behind the facade. Among the many layers of a narcissist's psyche lies a surprising vulnerability, the fear of being exploited. Ironically, this is a behavior they themselves engage in without hesitation, often manipulating others to suit their own ends. Yet, precisely because exploitation is such a central part of their worldview, they become consumed by the paranoia that someone might use the same tactics against them. Their mistrust runs deep, and they vigilantly watch for signs of deception, operating under the belief that they must outmaneuver others before being outmaneuvered themselves. This constant state of suspicion not only isolates them, but also perpetuates their cycle of manipulation, a defensive stance rooted in their own insecurities. Even more pronounced than their fear of being taken advantage of is their dread of humiliation. For a narcissist, being embarrassed or ridiculed is not just a momentary discomfort, it's an unbearable affront to the carefully constructed image they project. Their insecurity makes them hypersensitive to criticism, no matter how minor. They may lash out disproportionately at the slightest perceived slight, unable to tolerate even the most innocent jokes at their expense. While they have no qualms about mocking or belittling others, they are utterly incapable of handling the same treatment in return. In an attempt to shield themselves, some narcissists resort to preemptive self-deprecation. By making fun of themselves first, they try to control the narrative, turning what could be seen as vulnerability into a calculated move to extract validation. This tactic often confuses those around them, as it appears to show humility but is, in reality, a ploy to elicit compliments and reinforce their fragile ego. Yet even this strategy has its limits. They still recoil at genuine ridicule or moments where their authority is challenged. To laugh at a narcissist, even in jest, is to invite their wrath, a wrath that can manifest in anything from passive-aggressive retaliation to outright efforts to undermine or discredit their perceived adversary. At the core of these fears lies a profound contradiction. Narcissists crave admiration and dominance, yet they are ruled by insecurity and mistrust. They want to be seen as invincible, yet the very possibility of exploitation or embarrassment can shatter their composure. This duality creates an exhausting inner battle, as they constantly strive to maintain their illusion of superiority while vigilantly guarding against the vulnerabilities they refuse to acknowledge. For those who interact with narcissists, understanding these hidden fears is key to navigating their complex personalities. Beneath the bravado and manipulation is a deeply fragile individual who feels threatened by the same behaviors they project onto others. Recognizing this doesn't mean excusing their actions, but it does shed light on the motivations driving their often destructive behavior. Control lies at the very heart of a narcissist's world, the lifeline they cling to in their endless quest for dominance. For them, manipulation is not merely a tool, but a way of life, a strategy to bend others to their will. It is through manipulation that they mold the actions, emotions, and thoughts of those around them, ensuring that everything unfolds exactly as they desire. This obsession drives them toward positions of authority, where their influence can be exerted unchecked. Power, to a narcissist, is more than a privilege, it is a necessity, a safeguard against the haunting specters of abandonment, exposure, and disrespect. Their personal relationships are no exception. Narcissists are drawn to partners they can control, individuals who serve as a mirror, reflecting their desired reality. They believe that absolute control will shield them from the vulnerability they so fear. Yet, control is an insatiable hunger for them. No matter how much they achieve, it is never enough. Their lives become a relentless pursuit, a hunt for fresh sources of supply, new individuals to manipulate, new avenues to dominate. This ceaseless craving for power is both their driving force and their ultimate downfall. Paranoia and the fragile illusion of perfection. Behind the narcissist's confident facade lies a fragile and paranoid core. Their obsession with control is deeply intertwined with an almost pathological need to protect their image. Every move they make, every word they utter, is calculated to preserve the illusion of perfection they have constructed. The thought of being embarrassed, hurt, or exposed as flawed fills them with irrational fears that dominate their psyche. These fears are not rooted in concern for others, but stem entirely from their self-absorbed worldview. Narcissists care little for the welfare of those around them, focusing instead on how others' actions might threaten their carefully curated image. This paranoia keeps them on edge, driving their compulsive need for control and manipulation. It is a vicious cycle. The more they fear, the more they manipulate, and the more they manipulate, the greater their fear of exposure becomes. The narcissist's endless loop of discontent. No matter how much power they wield or how many people they control, narcissists are never satisfied. Their discontent is a defining trait, one that fuels their relentless search for more. They live in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, believing that the next conquest, the next manipulation, will finally bring them the fulfillment they seek. But this fulfillment is always just out of reach, an illusion that keeps them trapped in an endless loop of pursuit and paranoia. Their lives, viewed through this lens, are a tragic irony. In their desperation to avoid vulnerability, they create a reality where they are forever vulnerable to their own fears, to their insatiable need for control, and to the emptiness that no amount of power can fill. Understanding the inner workings of a narcissist's mind allows us to see the futility of their struggles. It is a cautionary tale of how the relentless pursuit of control and perfection can lead to isolation and self-destruction. If you've observed other irrational fears or behaviors typical of narcissists, share your insights in the comments below. Let's continue to unravel the complex dynamics of these personalities. Thank you for listening, and if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like and share. Together, we can shine a light on the hidden realities of human behavior.